So please, she'll present today the application of drones. Floor is to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Shikha. Thank you so much, Uttam and Bipla, for inviting me to this platform. I think this is an extremely prestigious platform for me to be on. And to give a tiny introduction of mine, I also belong to Nepal. I live in Kathmandu with my husband, who is from Nepal. So this gives me the opportunity to do something more for the second country that I belong to. And I'm super excited about sharing what I think are the possibilities of having the digital systems in unmanned aerial vehicles for Nepal, and what are the horizons that we're trying to touch and push with these systems in place. So we've had extremely exciting presentations from Patrick and from ICAO and from the ministries in Nepal, and we've got a perspective about what lies ahead for us when we implement the digital systems in Nepal. So if we have to kind of understand what can we do with the digital systems and unmanned aerial systems, and why should a government or the community welcome this big change? Why can't we just continue with the paper-based systems that we have, or why can't we do it offline? Why should everything come online? I mean, we are going to generate tons of data with these permissions in place. We're going to enable the drone pilots, the service providers, the ministries, of course, would get extreme support with the digital systems, but let's also kind of focus on the fine nitty-gritties that we're trying to achieve with the digital systems. And the first is the freedom versus the control. So we all, as the drone enthusiast, we expect some level of freedom to be given to us to fly the drones wherever we want. So we kind of sometimes kind of become very bullish that why are we even being controlled by the government? So, but the government has their own responsibilities to fulfill, and that means about the safety and the security, which the speakers before me had highlighted. So that's extremely important in a country's perspective. You just can't give permissions or allow people to fly randomly. And we here, as the speaker from ICAO had stressed upon, that you're talking about planes. They define drones as airplanes. So when we want something, a freedom to fly something, it can't just be given. So if we have to control it to some extent, how do we extend that control? What systems do we have in place to do that? Here we're talking about quality and safety. As again was stressed upon, we need to ensure that the drones that are flying are of certain quality and they do not pose any kind of safety threat to either the community or the airspace that we are talking about. Digital systems will help us really do that, make that happen. The processes and systems to implement the safety and the quality, you need processes and systems in place. And no process or no system can work without data. Digital systems will give you the kind of data that you require to take Nepal to the next level in terms of international regulations and standards. The risk analysis and mitigation, this again was briefly talked about. But to do any kind of risk analysis, now I'm talking on the perspective of being a quality auditor and a consultant myself. So we know that how important data is to talk about risk analysis. Where exactly are you flying? What are the potential risks over there? Now in Nepal, we have seen some really ambitious projects taken up by Nepal Flying Labs, and that is, let's say, about glaciers, about landslides, about floods, earthquakes. So all of these situations or use cases have their own potential risks. To do a proper risk analysis, you need some historical data to be thinking about what are you really taking up as a project. And the government and the community both can benefit from such a kind of risk analysis and mitigate the risk even before they occur. The policy development. Now, again, Nepal as well as India are evolving their policies to match the international standards. And even the international scene of drones is evolving with time. Every day you have new applications and new drones and new providers coming on the horizon. And with new learnings, we are understanding more probably the harmful as well as useful applications of the drones. This understanding and this learning is helping us evolve our own policies internationally as well as nationally. And this is also extremely important for us as consultants to support the providers and the ecosystem, that what kind of policies do you want? So data driven policy decision making can happen only when you have data in place. And with the digital systems that we are trying to develop, probably this is going to take our process and our offer to a very important level. The gap analysis. Now, before you start developing something, you need to understand what's expected and where you are. And between them, you have a gap. So to do a gap analysis, even as for whatever system you talk about, it could be disasters, it could be healthcare, or wherever you're trying to apply your drones, you need to understand what is the current gap in that. And again, the digital systems was going to help us do that. Resource survey. So if you talk tomorrow, if you are, let's say you're going to participate in a regional activity of disaster risk reduction. So we need to understand how many drone pilots are available, let's say in India, in Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, and all the surrounding countries that we're talking about, so that we can do a combined effort in that direction. Before we do that, first we need to understand how many pilots we have, how many drones we have, and how many providers can help us achieve that. So to do this kind of a survey, the data that we're going to generate is going to be extremely useful. Impact assessment. Going back to what Nepal Flying Labs has been doing in the country, these are high-end projects in healthcare, in disasters, in conservation, in infrastructure. What is the impact of what we have done? How many drone pilots were given the permission? What drones were used? What kind of data was collected by them? What happened after that? Did we achieve what we were trying to achieve or not? So to make this kind of an assessment, we would need data there as well. The performance improvement. So let's say we are doing pretty well and we want to improve what we are doing. A baseline data would be extremely useful. So let's say we have been successfully implementing the drone projects in the valley, but now we want to go outside the valley and let's say do it in far west of Nepal or in extreme conditions like let's say Everest Base Camp. So how do we scale up? How do we do whatever we're doing much better? The systems that we're developing in the crowded places, can they be taken into the more remote areas? Or what we are doing in the remote areas can be brought back to the more crowded cities like Kathmandu? So to do that, we would again need baseline data. So the digital system would give us the platform to start working upon them. International compliance. Now, ICAO just told us about all the complex compliance regulations that they have, and even the Ministry of Home Affairs and the Civil Aviation. To comply by these national and international standards, you need to start somewhere. So more we understand that, okay, if how complicated could it be if 5 drones fly together in a place like Kathmandu with all the flights coming in and out. We also know that this is important. The drones are a very important part of what we are doing. If we agree on that, then to regulate this kind of a traffic, we would need the data in hand. Adapt to the global guidelines. Now, not all international guidelines and policies are applicable to our country. So even as Flying Labs, we have international code of conduct for the drone operations. To even accept these guidelines, we need to understand whether are they relevant to the context that we're talking about, to the situations in Nepal, to the communities in Nepal, to the problems that we are facing here, the challenges that we want to achieve. Now, for example, somebody just said that 7 kilograms of drones is the only thing we thought about apply to allow earlier. But then if we talk about the limitations of the weight of a particular drone or the range of a particular drone, does it apply to us? Now, let's say in Nepal, we are doing the vaccine deliveries in in the remote villages. So here we have certain kind of distance that we're trying to cover. Tomorrow, this distance might increase. Now, let's say we want the patients to be helped out, and from the vaccine depot in Kathmandu to a place, let's say like Sallahi. So to cover that distance from a single drone port, you would need to release or kind of loosen up the range limitations that we have, just to understand that this is Nepal and this is our requirement, this is our need, and we want to do it this way. So if we have to adapt the global guidelines to our local standards, we need to have all the digital systems in place to understand what has happened, how it has happened, and how it will kind of scale up in the future for us. Unmanned traffic management, I just gave an example about doing it in Kathmandu, but imagine you're doing it nationwide. You might be having all the youngsters who are so super enthusiastic about the drones are trying their DIY flights and they are innovating and they want to test out what they have to do. So creating these testing corridors so that everything is safe and the traffic management is done systematically. digital systems are going to enable that also to happen. So you have a place for innovators, and you have a place for researchers, and you have a place for humanitarians like us who are going to actively do what we are doing. The scale up the impact. I just said, if something is done in Kathmandu, you want to do it also in let's say Jhapa, and what you're doing probably in Sarlahi, you want to do also in Kathmandu. So all of these things can happen once you have systems in place. Standard operating procedures. Nothing can be achieved if you don't have a standard operating procedure for something. Now, somebody just asked a question about how do you keep a control on what permissions are being given at the CDC level or at the CDO level. And from the CDO, you want to understand whether how do you drill down the data from the ministry to the CDO and from the CDO back to the ministry to relay this data, to communicate this data, and to create the channel of communication between different authorities. It's very, very easy when you have, let's say, a blockchain supported communication system that we are trying to probably design and implement. So for the next 2 days, we are also going to co-create these systems amongst us and do a design thinking exercise where we will all come together and brainstorm what is it that we need in the SOP, in the digital SOP that we would probably create for Nepal. Fleet management. Now, let's say you have a project like a dam construction happening or a hydroelectric power station that you're trying to make. Here, probably one drone may not be enough. You might need to implement multiple drones together and probably control them from a central command and control in a particular remote location. Or let's say you want to copy this entire command control and command center in the defense ministry together. So it could be simultaneously relayed in two places. So first hand is the primary digital system that we're developing. And on top of that, you can always create layers and layers of possibilities as we all move forward. Aerial data. I'm talking about the aerial data. Any data in this entire human world that we have created is extremely valuable. I wouldn't say expensive, but it's extremely valuable. So if you have data, if you understand that the value of the aerial data that you're connecting, every point in the picture that you take from the drone, or every single pixel, and even in the video that you take with the drone, is geotagged. So this geotagged information is super sensitive. How do you control the super sensitive data from leaking out of your country? Or how do you understand who's sharing the data with you and what happens? Who are the stakeholders of this data that you're trying to deliver? If you don't know who's flying the drone, who's collecting what, you wouldn't probably be able to even have a say in who controls that data or who shares that data and who does what with that. And this also applies to the grants and partnerships which generously come to Nepal. We also need to probably understand whom are we partnering with, what are their ultimate motives, and whom do we allow the data sharing to happen. Tourism. Now we're talking about bringing back Nepal back again after COVID-19, and I'm so sorry about the 2020 movement that we wanted for tourism. It is just postponed. So now when we open up the tourism, possibility of clicking pictures like you see in my background is going to encourage the tourists to come down and take amazing pictures of the beautiful landscapes that we have in Nepal and share it back with the world. And this can be super encouraging to the tourism. Having systems in place allows you to have the tourists come in with their drones, take pictures responsibly, and share it with the world. But having some controls in place allows you to ensure that this is not misused by anybody. I spoke already about the infrastructure projects. And so this is the whole landscape of possibilities of the what drones and drone data can do for Nepal. And all of this can take Nepal's GDP to the next level. And this is what I'm like super excited about. Having digital systems in place, allowing the drone flight systematically in the context of safety, ethics, and responsibility. And then together, probably we are going to reach a very, very important horizon and push the horizons even further. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Ruchi Saxena. So it was really informative, and you also showed the part of how the private sector is working for the application of drone. That was really interesting. So now we will move towards the towards Q&A session. So please, we have a question from Narvada from Ministry of Home Affairs. So she has asked, could you please make regulatory framework of India and any other country that would be helpful to consult or draw interference on best practices available to us.
Sure. Any help needed? I'm always there. Thank you so much.
Oh, I didn't see that you have already answered that. Sorry for that. So, do we have other questions? Please, you
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, Anup sir.
Yes, this is Anup. I'm online.
Oh, okay. So, sir, do you have any question for Dr. Ruchi Saxena? Okay. So I think it's thank you, Dr. Ruchi Saxena. We don't have any questions, so we will move towards our next speaker, that is Anup Nepal sir from Ministry of Communication and Information Technology. Mr.
Yes.
Anup sir,
Can
are
you
you
hear
ready?
me? This is Anup.
Yes, we can hear you.
Now, you kindly
Okay.
display my presentation.
Okay, sir, I'm going to present your presentation. Can it be seen?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, sir. Sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to present very small segment of drone regulation in Nepal. That's the assigning the frequency and